BCPS families. We are so excited to share a story with you today called Chester Raccoon and the Big Bad Bully. After you finish listening to the story, we will share some questions for you to think and talk about. Then you will see a writing prompt. You can use this writing prompt to respond to the text. You can then share your written response with your teacher. Finally, you will see some project ideas for enrichment and ways to have fun interacting with the book. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome BCPS students, parents, and families. Welcome to a Read Aloud today. Today I'm bringing you the story Chester Raccoon and the Big Bad Bully, written by Audrey Penn, illustrated by Barbara L. Gibson, and permission was granted from Scholastic Publications. Thank you to Scholastic. In the story, Chester Raccoon and the Big Bad Bully, there's a bully at school. Chester, his brother Ronnie, and his friend Cassie go to Mrs. Raccoon and ask for help. Once Miss Raccoon finds out what's happening, she decides to invite all of Chester's classmates to his house, and she tells them a story. This story helps them decide how to solve their problem. At the end of the story, they end up turning their bully into a friend. Let's find out how they did that. Chester Raccoon stood in front of his tree hollow, looking gloomy. His younger brother Ronnie and his best friend Cassie stood beside him. "We don't want to go to school," Chester told his mother. "We want to stay home with you. Please, may we stay home with you?" "I thought you liked school," said Mrs. Raccoon. "We do," said Ronnie. "Then why do you want to stay home with me?" Chester lowered his head and shuffled his foot. He explained in a quiet, muffled voice. Mrs. Raccoon reached out and tenderly lifted Chester's head with her hand. "What did you say?" Chester gazed into his mother's loving eyes and gulped. "Oh, there's a bully at school, and he's horrible," cried Ronnie. "He's big and mean. And he has giant claws on his hands and feet," wailed Cassie. "And fangs," cried Chester. "And fire comes out of his nose. And if you get in his way, he'll step on your face and squash you like a bug." "Like a bug," echoed Ronnie. "Oh my, he sounds very scary," said Mrs. Raccoon. "Bullies can be very difficult. I'll tell you what," she told the frightened cubs. "I'll walk you to school and back. Then we can decide what to do about this bully." When the raccoons reached the school tree, Chester tugged on his mother's arm. "That's him! That's the bully!" He pointed a trembling finger at a badger standing by the pond. "Isn't he awful? Isn't he the most scary-looking bully you've ever seen?" "Oh my, yes," whispered Mrs. Raccoon. "But I'm sure we can work things out." Before leaving, she gently fluffed Chester's mask and playfully tweaked Ronnie's nose. "Be brave," she told the cubs, and gave each of her sons a comforting kiss in their palms. After school, Chester, Ronnie, and Cassie told Mrs. Raccoon how the badger bullied his classmates at recess. First, he snatched a ball away from the squirrel and popped it. Then he climbed atop the jungle gym and squashed the opossum's finger until the opossum fell to the ground. Then he spooked a doe who bumped into a skunk who got so scared that he sprayed and stunk. Even our teacher couldn't get him to behave. Sometimes animals are bullies because they don't know any other way to be, explained Mrs. Raccoon. But I think there's a way you can change things. Go get your friends and bring them to our tree. I want to share a story. A few minutes later, a crowd of eager young forest animals stood at the base of Chester's treehouse, and Mrs. Raccoon began her tale. Once, a long time ago, there was a secret forest sprinkled in yellow stones. These stones were round and polished, big and little, and smooth enough to hold. Every animal in the forest collected and treasured them. One day, an animal found a blue stone. It was very exciting since no animal had ever seen a blue stone. But the blue stone was rough and dull, without any polish or shine, and it had sharp prickly points sticking out of it, making it very hard to hold. Careful not to hurt their paws. The animals carried the stone to the center of the forest and placed it atop a tree stump where everyone could see it. Perhaps the stone is blue because it popped out of the ground too soon, suggested a fox. So the animals waited and watched for many days and nights to see if the blue stone would turn yellow. But the stone remained blue, and its outer shell remained sharp and pointy. I believe the stone is blue because that is the color it is meant to be, said the very wise snake. Therefore, we shall treasure the blue stone for the color it is. But if we want to hold the stone, as we do our yellow stones, we'll have to work together to smooth its outer shell. So first the woodpeckers took turns chipping off the stone's sharp, prickly points with their beaks. Then the chipmunks rolled the stone with their noses, while other animals shined and buffed the stone with tree bark and fluffy tails. In time, the blue stone was as smooth and shiny as the yellow stones. Mrs. Raccoon smiled down at the young animals listening to her story. The badger at your school is just like that blue stone, she explained to Chester and his schoolmates. He is a badger, and that is the way he is meant to be. But if you work together, I think you can smooth out his bullying ways. The next day at school, when the recess bell rang, all of the little animals went outside together. They huddled close to one another and walked toward the bully in one great big confident pack, with Chester in front holding a ball. At first, the bully looked at them with a twinkle in his eye, thinking, "I'll get one of you." But as the pack got nearer and nearer to him, without a hint of fear, the badger's expression changed. His eyes widened. His jaw dropped open. His knees grew weak and wobbly. Suddenly, it was the bully who was scared. He began to whimper and squeal, and he thought, "They're coming to get me back." But there was nowhere to run. He just stood there with his back up against a tree as his schoolmates drew closer and closer and closer. Finally, Chester was nose to nose with the trembling badger. He narrowed his eyes and looked as serious as his little furry face would allow. Then, without hesitation, he held up the ball, looked straight into the bully's eyes, and asked, "Want to play?" "Huh?" The surprised bully stopped shaking. He looked at his classmates, who were laughing and offering friendship. "You want me to play with you?" He squealed with delight. He gently took the ball out of Chester's hands. "Okay," he told them, "I'll play." So, in one short moment, the badger softened and the bully became a friend. The badger didn't need to bully anyone ever again.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the story. Listen as I read you these questions. Then you will have a few moments to share your answers with someone near you. Retell the story. What happened first? What happened next? What happened at the end? Have you ever felt nervous about going to school like the raccoon children? Why did you feel that way? At the end of the story, the badger turns out to be a friend after all. Have you ever thought someone was one way and then they turned out to be different? Grab a piece of paper and a pencil and jot down this idea for writing about the story. Have you ever had a problem with a friend at school? Write about what happened and how your problem was solved. Add an illustration after you write your story. Here are some more ways to interact with the story at home. Head outside and go on a stone hunt. See if you can find any shiny yellow or sparkly blue stones like the ones in the story. In this story, the author includes beautiful illustrations of animals and plant life. Draw some pictures of animals or plants that you can find where you live. Sometimes a kind gesture can make someone feel better. Write a letter to a friend from school you haven't seen in a while. Talk to your family about how you can send it through the mail or through email. Use materials you find around the house, like toys or stuffed animals, to create a puppet show retelling the story of Chester Raccoon and the Big Bad Bully. We hope you enjoyed listening to this story, and we hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.